Yes, this is Mr. Controversy, and this is the infamous three-point conversion station. Keep it locked.
On this episode of Brownstown USA, we discuss Gerald McCoy and us losing out on him. We also talk about Browns minicamp, such an exciting experience. Also, we're going to talk about some comments that came from the team regarding Duke Johnson and still he would like to be traded. And also, we'll discuss some things to watch for when it comes to this minicamp this week. So, tune in. We'll talk to you soon.
Got it back because I'm brown. So what's up? Coming at you live and direct. Yo, dude, represent. Mr. Broadus South Town. With that new sound. As we get down.
From coast to coast, representing all the dog pound as we are finally at minicamp. This is the Brownstown USA podcast, powered by the three-point conversion. I'm Eric, and if you didn't hear him already, that's LA. LA, what you got, brother?
What's going on, Browns fans and everybody out there that's listening? Feels so good to get back to you guys. Took a little bit of a break, just like the Browns do as well. I mean, it's the summertime, so we got to get out there, have some fun and everything. But, Eric, we are inching little bit by little bit closer to the opening of the Browns' first opener, actually. I think we're about 90 days away now or something to that nature, right around there. But Browns minicamp, mandatory minicamp, as we may say, because now we are starting to embark in things because of that bargaining agreement that we have to actually say what's mandatory and what's not mandatory. So this is mandatory. The entire team showed up, including some big names that we were watching out for. Odell Beckham showed up, and also Duke Johnson showed up, but we'll get into that a little bit later. But first, just to talk to everybody, we had a big name free agent that was out there. Gerald McCoy was released from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers about a week and a half or so back. A lot of money that he was commanding with his contract to stay on their books, $13 million to be exact, and they released him. So we seen that Gerald McCoy came in, had a great visit with the Cleveland Browns. Then we also seen him jump over to one of our rivals, the Baltimore Ravens, and also had a good visit. Then a third team came out of nowhere, right? And he went down there and visited with them, and we're talking about, of course, the Carolina Panthers. After sitting back and waiting for about a week and just excruciating pain and just speculation and people saying they heard from their barber and heard from their personal trainer, we finally seen him make a decision, and he chose the Carolina Panthers on a contract that is worth up to $10.5 million. I believe it was a $3 million signing bonus. I believe it was 3 to 5.
I think so. Yeah.
And we seen him sign on, man, to actually a rival to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers down there in the NFC. And before I get into my thoughts on this, and we'll because of course, if you're not brown and orange, you don't matter. So we're not going to spend a ton of time on it. But what was your thoughts from the Gerald McCoy? What were you hearing from the fan base? I mean, what's your overall thoughts on it?
Well, the first thing that's obviously going to need to be talked about is this whole build-up. A lot of Browns fans were getting more and more pumped with each decision, but in the end, a lot of fans were just like, I didn't really want him. It's the stereotypical way of fan bases, just like, oh man, the only other reaction we would have gotten if he signed here was if he went to the Ravens, where, well, pretty much the gates of hell would open up. But that's beside the point. Honestly, I said this for a while. I wanted him, but I know we didn't need him, was the thing, because you already have essentially a good defensive line. You don't need to go out and get somebody like that for even $10 million. I think is a bit much. So I understand the point, and I actually will give John Dorsey a lot of credit for just being able to say, this is our number. If you want to come here and play for a winner, because not for nothing, Cleveland probably still has a better chance of winning than the Panthers or the Ravens.
Yeah, that's a very good assessment. I kind of would choose the Browns to have a more successful season. The Panthers, they're here and there. Again, I've been down there and been able to keep an eye on them closely because I stayed in North Carolina for about 13 years. And that team has always been very wishy-washy. Again, I'm not going to talk bad about another team because we haven't been anywhere yet, and our track record shows that we lose. So until we actually have that successful season and we actually build upon that successful season and make it a track record, we have no leg to stand on at all. But we've seen Cam Newton. We've seen what he looks like when his shoulder is not right. He's still healing up. We've seen what the team looks like when Cam is not right, because Cam literally puts the team on his shoulders. Crazy enough, no pun
Let's
intended.
be honest, Cam is the Carolina Panthers.
Well, yeah, him and Kuechly. So, between those two, that's how the team goes. I believe that McCoy is going to get more playing time down there with the Panthers over than what he would have got with the Browns, because we have a stacked D line, and he would have been used to rotate, which would have been a luxury for us again. Like a lot of our fans said at the beginning when we were interested in him, that he was more looked at as a luxury. And then again, you see the fan base, then they flipped on him, and I seen some ugly stuff out there hoping that he gets hurt and all this other dumb stuff. And I'm like, guys, I understand your fans, and that's why I kind of keep scrolling when it comes to that and don't engage in battles, because a lot of times it's hard to take your fandom out of it and look at it from a pure standpoint, from a football standpoint, and that's actually what we are here to do. So ultimately, I believe McCoy not only signed with the Panthers because he wanted to get a chance to face his old team. He has a chip on his shoulder. He wants to show that he still has it. And if he can actually put it to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I'm pretty sure that'll make him happy. Also, too, it's still down south, still good weather, so he's not changing up completely from a summertime type town to a wintertime type town like Baltimore and Cleveland is, and he's familiar with the division and everything else. So it was just a comfortable fit for him. So definitely wish him the best. Definitely want to give a shout out to a good friend of mine, Nashina Quick. She covers the Carolina Panthers, quick out of the blocks. She had it pegged, and I was kind of following her just to kind of make sure, what they were hearing down there. And the more and more before his decision came, the happier she became. So I was like, man, it looks like it's going to be a possibility. And she hit the nail on the head. So definitely shout out to her, quick out the blocks. She's doing a good thing over there in Panthers country. So with that being said, man, we embark on a minicamp journey, mandatory minicamp. And I know a lot of eyes was on this. For whatever reason, I don't know why people thought Odell still wouldn't show up, even though he said many times that he would be here. I guess it's just people being skeptical. And then also, too, Duke Johnson, with all the trade rumors and I want to be traded stuff, he showed up as well. Now, he showed up and he put out some pretty strong comments, and hopefully we may be able to get some soundbite from that for you guys, because I do have that recorded for you guys. So we may be able to go ahead and play that for you guys too, so you can hear what he says. But, in a nutshell, he still wants to be traded. He still wants to be traded. He came out and said it. And before we go into the reaction from that, I want to get your reaction, Eric, as to just Duke coming out and stating that, right away at the beginning of the minicamp.
Well, the thing is, we kind of both had a feeling this was going to happen. I mean, he wasn't at OTAs. He wasn't at any of the voluntary practices. And I know that's all voluntary, but the problem is it's hard not to notice that, if you will. I mean, this was a guy that a few years ago we were saying was robbed of being a Pro Bowler. This is a guy that for the last year we've been saying and he needs to be playing more. He needs to be starting more. He's, it's just, well, I can understand the frustration, but the thing is, if he doesn't want to be on the team, I hate to say it, get going.
Yeah, again, I tweeted this before we hopped on to record, but I see it from Brown's standpoint. I see it from Duke's standpoint. Duke basically said that he had heard a month before that the Browns had put him on the trading block, and and basically he was like, he felt when he found out that information, he felt betrayed, he felt hurt, and he was just like, well, I don't want to be somewhere where I'm not wanted. Now, again, this is a business, it's a business. So I can understand why he would be on the trading block. We weren't using him to his fullest ability. And from a standpoint, he has value. So why not put him on the trade block and see what we can get for him? From his standpoint, this is his livelihood. This is how he makes money. This is how he feeds his family. And then also he's a competitor as well. So nobody wants to just be sitting on the sideline, not being used to the best of their ability. And we said this on the show a lot of times, last season and the season before, how we were just screaming at the fact of why they weren't using Duke to his fullest ability. But the actuality of it, Eric, is that the team got better, especially at the running back position. And so he started to get phased out. Now, Freddie said in his interview, and we'll get deeper into it, but, Freddie said in his interview that they want him here, and they're going to unlock that potential, and they're going to use him a lot more this season. That still has, been left to be desired, because the coaches have said that last year too. And I know that we had a whole different other coaching committee, so can't really put too much weight behind that. But, ultimately we'll see, and Duke did say also that he knows that he is under contract. He will be a constant professional. He said he will not create any kind of, being a disgruntled employee or do anything stupid. He's going to show up and he's going to be professional. And honestly, Eric, when a lot of players say that, I don't believe it, but we've actually seen Duke do it. There's a lot of times Duke has not been used and he has not created a fuss or anything until now. So, with that being said, hearing Duke, showing up, being professional, stuff like that, do you think that, because I don't see us trading him, during the summer at all. I don't see it happening. Again, I called it that if we did, we would trade him more mid-season. But do you think that he can hold it together, man? And besides the reporters asking the same question over and over again, which we know some, I'm not going to name drop, but do you think we're going to be able to hold it together, or that he's going to be able to hold it together?
I hope so, just because we know Duke can be an asset. He didn't get the chance to show it off last year, but we know that he can be an asset. But the thing is, that same reporter or two that you talk about, they are probably two of the most prominent reporters in Cleveland right now. So as much as they are probably so disliked, it's not even funny. But the thing is, that pressure is going to get to him eventually, and he's going to say, look, I want out. And you know what? He's going to make the most of that opportunity. And the other thing that does worry me is, I think he's going to be professional. I think he's going to hold together. One of the things that I would not be surprised about was that if each press conference he did say, I want to start off by saying I want to be traded, because the thing is, he wants to get it more and more out there. He said he'll be a professional, and I thought he even said he doesn't expect to be traded like soon, but at some point, I think it's gonna get too much, and you're gonna get that breaking point. It usually happens to the best of. It usually happens to the best players.
Yeah, I just don't see, like I said, I don't see Dorsey bending. I don't see Dorsey actually really caring. And I think that if every press conference is going to be that, which we know it is, every time he's going to talk to the media is going to bring it up, then I see the Browns limiting his media availability, just going ahead and cutting it down. Again, I want to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to talk about, Baker's reaction to what Duke said. And we're also going to talk about what Freddie Kitchens had to say about it as well, because it was crazy the way it was lined up. Like, it was like Duke said what he said, and then it was like boom, boom, boom. Baker had his interview, Freddie had his interview, and it just actually fit together perfectly. So, man, they said some pretty good quotes, I would say, from the press conferences they had, and I definitely want to dive into it and get your opinion. So we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, that's what we'll discuss. This is Brownstown USA, and we are powered by the three-point conversion. We'll be right back.
You know what? That's something that we've been dealing with for a while. If we have guys that want to be here, they'll show that, they'll voice that. Obviously, he's going to handle his stuff how he wants. But you're either on this train or you're not. It's moving. You can get out the way or you can join us. So it is what it is.
And we are back, Brownstown USA. And as I mentioned before, we are powered by the three-point conversion. The three-point conversion, where fans' opinions matter. Make sure you hop over to the threepointconversion.com. Check out the latest news and articles and everything else that we got going on for you guys. We are covering a lot of stuff, including, the NFL offseason, the NBA Finals, some just great articles coming out about that. And then also the WNBA season has started up, so we are covering that as well. And we also got you covered with the baseball season too. So, Eric, and also follow 3-Point Conversion on all social media at 3PTCNVRSN. So, again, we discussed Duke and, him just coming out saying that I want to be traded, man. It just is what it is. So, we had Baker come up afterwards, and, Baker, they asked Baker how he felt about Duke's response or Duke's trade demands. And basically, Baker said that, if you're not on this train, then we're going to leave without you, pretty much paraphrasing. Either get on or get off. That's kind of how he felt. He felt that Duke would be professional, and show up and do his job, and didn't think it would be a distraction to the team at all. So before we hop into what Freddie said as well, how do you feel about Baker coming out saying this? And pretty much, we know he's the leader of the football team. So how do you feel about him vocalizing his opinion?
You know what? He's the leader of this football team, and I definitely completely understand why he said it. The thing is, if he doesn't say something right away, then he's gonna get looked at. And let's be honest, no matter what happens, he's gonna get looked at because of a certain individual who shall go not named, with a certain show on a certain network. But the fact of the matter is, I think Baker pretty much just said what essentially is on the minds of the fans right now, which sounds weird, but a lot of fans are basically thinking right now, all right, then you know what, if you don't want to be here, just go. If you don't want to be here, be a part of this, that's on you. That's your own, But the thing is, I think Baker probably could have said it in a different way and in a different place is the thing. Like, when you just get off the football field from your first minicamp practice of the year, is that really the best time to say it? Maybe wait until you go into the locker room like a day and like later that day, or just say something in private, because all it takes is just the wrong words right now that can lead to something,
Yeah, and I hear what you're saying, but then when I was able to hear Freddie talk, and it seemed like when Freddie talked and when Baker talked, they were actually on the same page. And it seems like the whole team is on the same page, that everybody is about team over individual. And I know normally when players do talk about being traded or contracts or anything like that, players don't like to discuss it because they're like, hey, that's their business. That's how they make their money. That's their family. But it seems like they really want to put out there like that, look, it's about the Browns, not about Duke Johnson and the Browns, not about Baker Mayfield and the Browns. There is no individuals here, even though we have a lot of individual big names. And, speaking of that, Freddie went on NFL Network and had an interview as well, and they asked him about Duke Johnson's comments. And Freddie basically said, look, We want Duke here. We want him a part of this squad. We have some big things planned for him. And then, he basically went into and said that Duke is under contract. He's a Cleveland Brown. And then they said, well, what about him wanting to be traded? And then Freddie said, hey, I want to win the lottery. But, at the end of the day, he's a Cleveland Brown. So Freddie doesn't have any plans, even though we know that that's not really his department. It's more of a Dorsey kind of thing. So I'd be really interested to hear what Dorsey has to say eventually when it comes down to the time. But, Freddie, just like Baker, said, look, man, you're Brown. Just show up, do your job. And that's what it is. And then we also seen in minicamp, Duke started off with the second team on offense, and that's honestly because of the fact that, he hasn't been or to any kind of activities except for this one here. So I wouldn't read too much into it, but I don't know if you had caught what Freddie had said, but with me going ahead and explaining that, what are your thoughts as far as what Freddie had to say?
I think Freddie had the more polished version of what Baker said, truthfully. Look, he is a Brown. Until anything happens, Duke is a Brown. Until he's traded, released, whatever, he's a Brown. So he's going. Until any of that happens, he's the professional that you said that he was. He's going to go in and put that work in. He'll go in and do what he needs to do. I will give him that benefit of the doubt. I will give him all of that because there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to give him that benefit. So, with that said, I think that Freddie is being realistic here because the thing is, when you have someone that wants to get traded, of course they want out, but unless they're a Le'Veon Bell or Terrell Owens, they're not going to make a big stink about it like that. So I give him all the credit in the world. But right now it's just a waiting game at this point for Duke. So until then, Freddie's going to manage what he's got and see what happens.
Yeah, and kind of to wrap this up with a neat bow, like I said before, I don't feel there's a market for Duke right now. I know there's some teams that would love to have him and his versatility. So I'm not saying that teams won't want him, but I don't feel that his market is there right now because everybody is coming into training camp. There's a lot of different players at mini camps and OTAs and different things like that. So teams are not going to give anything in a trade right now because they feel like maybe they can find something from these guys. There's like 90 guys showing up to this camp and nobody has started to trim their rosters down or anything. And you don't really know what you got yet until, those final weeks of training camp and then you start getting into where you got to cut the roster down. Also, too, running backs are a dime a dozen, and there was still some pretty decent names out there in the free agency market the last time I looked that could come in off the street and still provide a backup type role that Duke would. Honestly, on this team right now. So I would see Duke if he were to get moved, it would be more midseason. Of course, when we see Kareem coming back around week 8, maybe sooner, maybe later. But it would be right around that time where, somebody would go down, not on the Browns, of course, but on another team, and they need somebody that could step in and just and not the team not have the season lost by it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And we've seen running backs go down, whether it's been, hamstring, Achilles, whatever you want to say. We've seen some running backs go down, and we've seen people trade. Just like how we moved Carlos Hyde last year. Jacksonville had a need for running back, and they went on ahead and traded for Carlos, and I believe we got a fifth out of that, which was an absolute steal at the time. It still is a steal, but because they ended up releasing him, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and the funny thing is, right now, that's probably the best way to put it because, well, someone is going to go down. Let's be honest. It's not so much in minicamp, so. I'm sure we're going to get in our BrownsTownUSA Facebook group, which, by the way, you should join, that I'm sure we're going to see the opinion go around, the question, what can we get for Duke? But people are going to be very unrealistic about it because that's just who we are. Like,
Well, we have emotional ties to him. I mean, he's been with the team since, 2015? So it's more so just like any of the other players that we let go or moved on from. I mean, that's the one thing that's so great about this fan base is we are very, very tied to names and not necessarily skill. And I'm not saying that's Duke's problem is skill, but not, sometimes we overlook skill. Sometimes we overlook off the field issues, different things like that. And again, that's not Duke's problem, but we are tied to our players, especially if they're here for more than a year and even sometimes within that year. But that's the thing. There is no market for this guy right now at all. And I've seen some outrageous compensation that people wanted for Duke, and I was just like, dude, there's no way. I remember seeing something like they were saying a second or a third rounder when initially it came out, and I was like, are you kidding me? Like, there's no way. So again, we'll see him if we do see him move this year. It'll be, like I said, I think either after training camp or towards the start of the season, maybe leading up until Kareem comes back. But hopefully, once he gets whatever it is that they want to do with him installed in the offense, and then also say he's here at the beginning of the season, we start winning some games. Hopefully it changes his mind, man, and he, gets back, cool with being a Brown, and we can go from there. But if not, it is what it is. It's a business, and we got to move on. So we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we actually had the pleasure of checking out an article on some things to watch for in the minicamp. So we'll discuss that and then tell you some things that we're going to be looking for as well. So this is Brownstown USA. We will be right back.
Put on the trade block to kind of see what the team can get. And, I mean, at the end of the day, I understand the nature of the business. I understand, his job, John Dorsey's job is to do what's best for the team and the organization. And again, if that's getting rid of me for a bigger piece and a better piece, then I'm okay with it. Like I said before, my trade request was to meet them at a middle ground. I was put on the trade block a month before I requested the trade. So that's all it is.
And we are back, Brownstown USA. And, of course, I'm LA. Sitting across from me is my main man, Eric, a.k.a. Stoshball. And we're just talking some Browns with you guys. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening. We appreciate the support. Make sure you follow us on all social media at BrownsTownUSA, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. And then we also have an exclusive Facebook group for you Browns fans where all you got to do is answer a couple of questions to get in. And then you can talk as much smack and all that other good stuff as long as you keep it clean with us. And we can go back and forth. But definitely appreciate the support. Instagram is growing tremendously. Twitter is still right there. And also our Facebook fan page is growing too. So, again, thank you so much for the support. Also, make sure you subscribe to our podcast on whatever you're listening to it on, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, whatever. We're out there. We're all over the place. So thank you again. So, Eric, I had the pleasure of sending you something last night that the Browns actually released. I believe it was Andrew Gribble or one of their official beat writers wrote about it, but they had said it was some things to watch for when it comes to the mini camp. And I thought it was pretty intriguing, man, that just the storylines. So one of the storylines, of course, was Duke Johnson. We're not going to really pay attention to that too much because, of course, we already beat that, already. But let's talk a little bit OBJ because he didn't really come up, crazy enough, because we've been talking about Duke. So OBJ is there. What are you going to be looking for out of this camp, man, just from OBJ overall?
Well, one thing I'm definitely going to be looking for, and truth be told, this is something that we definitely should be looking for with OBJ, is for the fans to be quiet about it. I know that may sound sadistic. It may sound completely wrong, but my God, one of the things that annoyed the hell out of me the past, really since OTAs happened, was that fans were getting on it just like, he's not a team guy. He's not here. He's being a baby and a diva. So where was all this outrage for Duke Johnson then? Where was it when Landry missed a few days? I get it. It sucks that he's not there. I know that there are people watching at the camps that you want and that were hoping to meet him. The fact of the matter is, they're voluntary. I get that you want to see him work out with Baker, and try to get that chemistry going, but we already know that they're going to practice out in L.A. over the summer at some point. If I remember, I thought him, Chubb, Baker, Njoku, and Landry were supposed to get together and go to Los Angeles. So why are we going to make the big deal about it? And one thing that's going to happen, and I cannot wait for it, is the second that he gets on the field, fans are going to start loving him again. And they already have. If you go on Facebook and read the comments, just like, look how great he looks in that jersey. Look at that catch.
Yeah. And they got a couple of throws already just from the moments that they've been on the field today, and people are already going crazy. So like you said, the best thing to get this kind of stuff out of people's heads is just go out there and win. And that's what it's going to do. And, crazy enough, I know we had discussed this briefly, but, Joe Thomas went in on Tony Grossi as well about the whole fact that Tony Grossi made such a big to-do about missing the OTAs. And Joe Thomas broke it down pretty much the best way he could. I mean, it was amazing, actually. Joe Thomas continues to just astound me. But he said basically that, look, this is a new team for Odell. He doesn't know the strength and conditioning team like that. He has his own people. He knows his body, and he has to basically do what he does, what's best for his body right now, especially with the fact that it's voluntary, like you said. So until he can get in and gain trust and understand, how the Browns do it and how, they work out in their facility, he's going to do his own thing as much as he can, and a lot of players do that. So, again, it's because it's Odell. It's because of what comes with him and his star power that we heard from it. And, again, I'm not too concerned with it, especially with Baker reiterating again today in his presser that they were going to get together during the summer and work it out. So, not that big of a deal at all. Now, another big storyline is that they were looking at on the defensive side of the ball how it all comes together. We have some names, Greedy Williams, Morgan Burnett, Jermaine Whitehead, just to name a few, plus Olivier Vernon, Sheldon Richardson, just a lot of different people here. So, Eric, what about this defense? I want to say, are you looking to see what comes together? Like, what? I know they can't really do too much because it's minicamp, but what is your eye going to be on when it comes to the defensive side of the ball?
Well, probably the biggest thing is I'm looking mainly forward to how the secondary comes together, how it improves. Because as much as people want to talk about the linebacking core, I think we're pretty good right now because the first three names that we have were Avery, who showed a lot of potential. We had, of course, Wilson's going to be good, and, of course, Taki is going to be doing it, letting his work on the field do all the talky. But the linebackers were good because you still have Schober and Kirksey. The front and the rest of the front seven, we just talked about it ad nauseum earlier. It's a damn good front seven. Let's just be honest here. The secondary is what killed us last year, though, because, yeah, we had all the interceptions and turnovers. That was when everybody was healthy. And not for nothing, we didn't have the full staff together, and we didn't have the depth with it. Now you have probably the deepest we've been at safety in a long time. And even with another name really stepping up right now, and Jermaine Whitehead. Of course, Greedy's going to be under the microscope, and so far I've heard nothing but good things so far. Of course, Ward said he wants to work on his tackling. Mitchell is fighting for a job. Carey is spending time mainly with the corners, but he's still doing safety work. So there's a lot of work to be done, but this secondary, that's what the biggest focus is going to be for me.
Absolutely, and that's a good point. Now, kind of to talk about it a little bit, I know Randall said in his presser how he was going to be a little bit more towards the line and not play as far out there. So that's going to be really, really good. Another thing, talking about the linebackers is that they have actually been, from everything I've heard in OTAs and stuff, they've actually been just putting 2 linebackers out there with Schobert and Kirksey, and that's it. They haven't been doing a 3 linebacker set. They've been working Jannard Avery out with the defensive lineman, working with him on his edge rush, and it looks like they may have him coming in and out because they plan on rushing the quarterback a lot, so they want to keep their rushers fresh. So it looks like he's going to be doing that, which is going to be extremely interesting, and he actually does a very, very good job with getting to the quarterback. So it looks like there's going to be a lot of different defensive packages, and I'm just really intrigued with the defensive side of the ball because, again, we've gotten used to what Greg Williams, put out on the field, and it's been that, bend but don't break kind of thing, and, building on turnovers and stuff like that. But Wilkes, especially when you've heard him talk, man, he seems like he's like a no-nonsense guy. If you're not going to tackle and be all up in it, then you're not going to play kind of guy. So this is going to be extremely interesting, and I'm very, very much looking forward to the growth on that side of the ball because, again, we do have some veterans there, but we still are very, very young, especially at our key positions. And so it's going to be interesting to see how they make that leap to the, to the next year. So you're right, man. The defensive side of the ball is going to be extremely interesting. Now, this next –
go
ahead. Oh, okay.
I was just going to wrap it up by saying that Wilkes seems to have more interest in the defense as a whole rather than the front seven, which is pretty much what Greg Williams seemed to have really put a lot of emphasis on. That's all I was going to wrap it up with.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, this next one is a big one that a lot of people, surprisingly enough, aren't talking about. And you know what? Before we get into that, let's take a quick break. So when we come back, we'll talk about some more things to look out for, and then we'll wrap it up with a nice, neat bow for you guys and get out of here and get back to watching some more minicamps. So this is Brownstown USA, and we'll be right back.
What up, sports fans? It's your boy Damian Adams from The Real Deal with Damian Adams. Now, you can catch my show weekly here on the 3-Point Conversion station. I'm always bringing that real sports talk for the real sports fan. But if you're hearing my voice right now, that means you're living life correctly because you're listening to Brownstown with my man LA and Eric. Make sure you stay tuned. Tell your friends about the show because you know they're bringing that real for you, that knowledge for you here on Brownstown.
All right, we are back, Brownstown USA. And again, thanks for listening. Make sure you subscribe, hit the subscribe button to make sure you never miss an episode, and give us a ranking, 5-star preferably, but we also accept any type of feedback that we can so that we can continue to make this show better for you guys and gals. But so, we were talking about and discussing some of the things to watch for in minicamp, and we had just wrapped up talking about the defensive side, and now this next one, Eric, is actually very, very, very intriguing, and it's talking about the offensive line. Now, we've seen some things in OTAs as far as with Corbett. We've seen him working backup center and, kind of tooling around with the second team. Brown said they wanted him to earn that right guard starting spot. And we seen a guy, Drew Forbes, that had been starting at right guard during OTAs. Now, before we get into it, I did see today that he had that Corbett has been lining up at starting right guard. So not sure if it was just a big to-do or whatever like that. But, yeah, I am interested in seeing how this line gels together. We know that in every other position we're pretty set as long as they stay healthy. We know Treader was playing, with that high ankle sprain all season. So, he's back, he's healthy, and we know we're pretty set at the other stuff. And, of course, again, well, actually, I don't know if we're set, Eric, and I'll throw it to you. because at left tackle, we've seen Greg Robinson come on later on in the season. But again, we've known he's bounced around the league, and we're not sure what we're going to get. So, honestly, Eric, is this offensive line like a box of chocolates? Do we not know what we're going to get?
I would have to say right now, for the most part, I think we know what we're going to get. The problem is, though, if it all takes is just one bad game that can really throw everything through a loop, if you will. I mean, someone pointed it out how many times Greg Robinson got penalized for false starts or holds. And the thing is, that's because he really didn't see a whole lot of time on that front line until about week 8, I believe, week 9. Mm-hmm. So I can give him that benefit of the doubt. As for the Corbett situation, it's his job to lose right now for the most part. We know that Corbett's going to show up. We know he's going to play hard. He's going to put his time in. He's never struck me as a lazy guy, if you will. The problem is we have one guy that showed up that's, I believe, a undrafted free agent who a lot of people are saying could outplay him for the job. Now, we've seen this happen before. We saw it with Desmond Harrison last year. Dorsey is known for those types of players. Desmond Harrison, in the end, didn't necessarily work out to the best, but you know what? He's still with the team, and he was pretty damn good, all things considered. At the end of the day, their job is to put the best 11 men on the field. So if it means don't put Corbett in, unfortunately, I have to agree. I mean, right now, I think if they're not going to start Corbett, the best option might be try to work on him at center. Because if I remember correctly, Treader's going into the last year of his contract. While he's young, offensive line is the highest paid position. It's quickly becoming the highest paid position right now, as we've seen with the Nate Soldiers and all them.
Absolutely. Yeah, offensive line, that's why they moved. Dang, why does his name escape my mind already? Zeitler, yeah. I thought it was Zeitler. But, yeah, so that's why they moved Zeitler to begin with. He was like a top 3, I want to say at least in the top 5 as far as being paid at that right guard position. That's why they moved him. And, again, like you said, these folks are going to be coming up for their contract extension, so I'm sure they're trying to draft and figure out, replacements and say if somebody goes down. Again, this offensive line is going to really depend on what kind of year, Baker has, if they're not gelling, if they're not, doing it right, then, Baker's year is going to go down. Now, I think the cool thing about this offensive line is that, yeah, it's something that we want to have be a strength, but at the same time, we have so many freaking weapons out there that I believe that the offensive line will get bailed out a lot. One, Baker moves around, and he's very elusive in the pocket, which we've seen last year when the left tackle position was struggling. We've seen him be able to step in or step out or roll out to be able to still get the ball out. So I think that they'll get some slack there. Also, with him being able to do that, there's a lot of, like we said, offensive weapons that whether it is OBJ going down the seam, whether it is Landry coming back for a quick curl or a slant, whether it is Njoku, whether it's handing off the ball, to one of those dynamic running backs. I mean, there's just a lot of different things that we can do. Now, we will need them when it comes to the run blocking because Chubb is not going to be able to go anywhere if they don't block right or whoever's back there, Duke or Kareem or whoever. So we are going to need them, but I don't think it's going to be a humongous point of emphasis because of everything else that we got going on. So this leads to the last subject, and then we'll wrap this up. But Kitchens. So the article asked for, how would Kitchens be able to handle this? Of course, we know his story now stepping into the head coaching role. What I've been hearing around is that he doesn't even – a lot of players is like, he still doesn't even realize he's the head coach. He's been the same old. And everything that you heard from Kitchens, just hearing him talk, listening to him, seeing him, I'm not surprised by that at all, Eric. But again, I'll ask you this question, and I know that we'll probably ask again. Do you think he has what it takes, man, to go ahead and take this Cleveland Browns to the next level? And do you think he has what it takes to be able to ring in some of these personalities and things like that if things don't start off as well as we hope?
I think it's going to be tricky for him because, end of the day, he's a rookie head coach. Let's be realistic here. So I can get why people are asking this question, but the big issue is I think he can do it. I mean, keep in mind, this is a guy that took over took over when freaking Todd Haley got fired. Like, I'm going to say it. The jump he made from quarterback coach to offensive coordinator, that alone is hard because the thing is, the first rule you got to do is you got to put together an offense here. And the thing is, you're not getting any help with that. You just need to know what each player's core strength is. Now that he's got this opportunity in front of him, I say let him. That'll be fine. The difference is, right now, he's going to have a lot of help because he's got himself a pretty good passing offensive coordinator. The run game, it was something that Freddie Kitchens knew very well last year. And then he doesn't need to worry about the defense because he's got Steve Wilkes helping out with that. So I don't have as much of a problem with it, and I think he'll do all right. Do I think that he's going to be the division winner? I don't know right now at this point. He very well could be. I think this is going to be the closest year for the Browns to make the playoffs, though. Like, I'm going to say it. Like, I think they'll just miss the wild card or they'll make the wild card. They could be a division. I know that they're the division favorites, but the thing is, I'm not so sure so sure I'm ready to crown their ass yet. To quote the late great Dennis Green.
Understood. Yeah, again, it's so many intangibles, man. It's still so early. And I think he's doing a decent job so far, especially in the pressers. Just still being able to be real and articulate what he wants to say, but at the same time not sounding, unintelligent or, just, not being able to say what he wants to say. But like I said, again, still being real because a lot of times coaches, if they are real and down to earth, sometimes they come off as like, that they're dumb as a box of rocks, but I have not gotten that from him. And then another good thing, too, is that we seen last year with Hugh Jackson and Todd Haley that it seemed like Todd Haley came in thinking that Hugh would get fired and he would take over for him. We don't have that situation here. Freddie is clearly the guy. Todd Monken came in knowing that he clearly was going to be an offensive coordinator, nothing else. So everybody's on the same page. Everybody is meshed and they're on good terms. I shared something on BrownsTownUSA on the Twitter page that it was like a flashback, but it was two Hard Knocks, and we were looking at, Ty Haley, Hugh Jackson, all of them in the room, and you might have remembered this scene as well, but they're talking about the players skipping out on OTAs and how they felt about it and stuff like that, and, he was like, yeah, sometimes we need to, like, rest them or whatever, and they need to be rested. And Ty Haley was like, no, they need to be out there. And it was just a uncomfortable feel, and we didn't realize it then what a room like that would look like compared to what it is now because, honestly, we've always lived in dysfunction when it came to the Browns. So, it's kind of hard when you're living in that dysfunction to see something so refreshing and just so pleasant when it comes to the coaches talking to each other and teammates and different things like that and this camaraderie that we have now. But it was just so different, man, just to kind of see that, back then.
No, absolutely. I mean, it's kind of funny how history often mimics the present because back then what we used to do is we used to have like this mishmash of people taking over. Like, whoever was brought in was not the coach's guy, if you will. Hugh Jackson didn't want Todd Haley. Let's be honest with you. Let's be honest here. He didn't want him. I'm sure Hugh wanted probably himself, but if he had to choose, I'm sure there was probably another candidate out there that he wanted. But you know what? To see the fans reacting like it right now, with the fan base being like that and them being the dysfunction, I would rather see that right now because it shows that the team is unified. And that, to me, is a big step in the right direction, given the fact that we haven't seen this really since the 90s.
Right. Absolutely. So with that being said, that is Brownstown USA minicamp edition. Thanks again for listening in. Again, make sure you follow us at Brownstown USA on all our social media. And make sure you join the Brownstown USA fan group if you are a Browns fan. So, again, this is powered by the 3-point conversion. 3-point conversion where fans' opinions matter. Make sure you join us next week. We will talk about the wrap-up from the minicamp and any other news that we have heard then. And then we'll start doing some special editions where we will highlight, the positions and different things like that once things become clear. The official training camp, I believe, is in July, so we are inching towards that and cannot wait. But again, like I said, thanks for tuning in. I'm LA, and across from me is always my man, Eric, a.k.a. Stoshball. And we'll see you soon.
Take care, everybody. See you next week.